Okay, it would be good if you can introduce your name as well. And then go on.
Hi, my name is Carl. I take it you prefer Los Angeles over New York over Los Angeles. So, what is your inspiration for making this film? Like, do you see like little stories here and there when you're walking along the street and you just put them together?
Just about Los Angeles versus New York. I kind of believe everything both of those characters say about both of those cities. Like, I think what's great about one city is kind of not great about the other, and vice versa. I like both of them. I live in Los Angeles, but I went to graduate school in New York. I lived in New York for about 6 years. I still, my next movie is partially set in New York. I think New York's a better city to set movies in than Los Angeles, but I kind of like living in Los Angeles. So I don't know. I bear no ill will to either city, if that's what you're asking. In terms of inspiration, it's not it's not an autobiographical film. I have a dear friend. My friend Rachel has alopecia, so I based the character of Annie on her. I was is that me? Am I doing that? I was a camp counselor when I was in high school, and there was a foster kid in my group named Rasheen, so I kind of took that. But largely, I think more in terms of themes in my life, emotional themes, patterns keep recurring. It's not. I'm more interested in taking the emotional temperature of where I'm at, or where I feel like a group of people are, or what I'm seeing, people my age, or in a certain city or something. So that's kind of what I do. And this next movie, I'm editing my second movie right now. It's called Liberal Arts, and I went back to show my film at Kenyon College, where I went to school, and I was just struck by an idea there about, what if a guy who was like this came back to his college and this happened? I don't know. This is only my second film, so I can't really say all films are written we'll talk when I have 10. I'll be back.
Anything perhaps on what we can expect from the next film, or when it will be out?
I hope it's good. Yeah, it was weird watching this movie tonight because I haven't seen it in a while, and I was kind of thinking about that thing that Sam and Charlie talk about. Every 5 years you realize what an asshole you were 5 years ago. And I thought, I like this film. I'm very proud of it, but there's moments that for the first time when I went, wow, I would have done that different, or or just even in its construction. This next film is less. It's less, I was kind of, I don't know why this occurred to me. I thought, Ira, the guy who sleeps with Annie and says that horrible thing to her, I kind of thought, this movie's a little like Ira's hair. It's really messy, but it's kind of cool. That's kind of how I feel about the movie in this moment, at this tonight in Singapore. That's how I feel about it. I've had every possible feeling about this movie I could ever have. But I don't know, there's something about it that feels really like a first film, and I don't mean that that's not a put down. It feels like this very generous offering that I was making at a time in my life, and it was the best I could do, and I mean that very sincerely. And the second film is the best I can do in this moment, so I got, I'm doing my best is all I'm saying.
But it's good enough, don't you agree?
He's really trying to pump you guys up. You don't know what he's doing. No, he's great.
Anybody got any questions? Surely, somebody. All right.
Hi, Josh. My name is Honey.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask you. I'm going to direct my first, independent film, and I was wondering if you had a great advice or anecdote when you were directing and you've written it and you're starring in it. Anything to say?
Yeah. Surround yourself with great people, and then you get all the credit in the end. But I'm an amazing cinematographer that I've worked with twice now, Seamus Tierney. Same production designer I've worked with, her name's Jade Healy. My editor twice, Michael Miller, who's an amazing editor. I always try to remember, when you're making a film, you're gathering. It's a community, and you're forming a community, like a little roving village that is going around for a month or two, however long you're shooting, and you're the leader of that community. So, rather than feeling like you're at the mercy of all the many forces that are out of your control, which it happens when you're making a movie. What's happening? Shooting in New York. Is that me? Am I doing that? Noise or actor schedules, all these things are out of your control. What is in your control is the kind of tone you want to set. And it's really important for me, the people that work on my movies, I want them to have a great transformative experience because I'm trying to make transformative movies. So I feel like I want people to, I want their hearts to open. I want them to feel like they're contributing to something hopefully great. And you have to carry that intention, and people can see that, they can see, and you can't lose your mind in front of the crew. You want to sometimes. You have to do that privately. I just try to lead with kindness, like as being my number one rule. I don't believe in the whole, tyrant on set or a horrible movie making experience leads to a good movie. That's just not my thing. Is that helpful at all? Okay. Good luck with it.
All right, I believe there was someone. Okay, more than one now, which is good.
I don't know who the mother is, if that's what you guys are going to ask me.
Hi Josh,
Hi.
My name is Manya, big fan. Thank you for coming to Singapore.
Yeah.
And my question is related to music because I read and heard your radio show and stuff online that you're a big music fan. So can you tell us about, J-May did the original music for this movie, and how were you involved and what was the process like?
Cool, I'm glad you asked about that, yeah. Well, my producer Jesse Hara, who's a friend of mine from way back, we grew up together in Columbus, Ohio, he sent me a link to J-May's songs a few years ago, and we both flipped for her, and we thought she was amazing. We went to see her when she was in LA, and just kind of weaseled our way into her life. We kept emailing her, and then we became friendly, and she would send me new songs, and when I had this movie, Jesse said, well, we have this movie about New York and relationships, and we're friends with this singer-songwriter who only writes about New York and relationships. Maybe this would be a good match. So we sent her the script, and she started getting some ideas, and we thought we'd have maybe one or two of her songs in, but the more I started editing the movie, and she sent me that song with all the different nighttime scenes happening, Never Be Daunted, she composed that for the movie, and she sent it, she just told me that this is so great. She emailed me last week and said she submitted it for best original song for the Oscars. And this is like unbeknownst to me, and I was like, fantastic! Like, we'll see what happens. She started writing all this music, and we kept finding places for her music in the movie, and she became like the kind of unofficial troubadour of the movie. Like everything she was writing seemed to mirror emotionally what was going on. And weirdly, when we started putting the music in, we put that song 40 Hours Ago in, which says, 40, I was feeling one way, now I'm feeling another, and it's all like the difference between how the character's feeling at night. And then when we edited it, she says something like, when she's tying her shoe, the word shoe comes on. Like there was all this weird synchronicity with the music. And I just love her music. I think she's one of the great singer-songwriters around. And then when we were doing the score, I was going to... The composer for How I Met Your Mother's name's John Swihart, and he was going to do the score. And he heard all the music in there, and he was like, J-May could do this score. So we got a music editor named Michael Brake, who J-May just gave him like her whole music library. And some of the stuff she composed directly for the movie, but like the scene in the police car where Sam gets arrested, there's this beautiful music with this cello, and Michael found a song called Climb Up the Ladder by J-May, and he took out the vocals and he took out the percussion, and it was just left with this like gorgeous guitar and cello, and he found all this amazing stuff. So that's how that happened. And then there's a bunch of other bands in there. One of my favorite bands is called Cloud Cult. They're from Minnesota. You know them? So good, right? That's when Annie opens her eyes and sees Sam's molecularly changed face. That's a Cloud Cult song. Who else? Dr. Dog is in there. A guy named Brendan Hines has a song in there called I Miss New York. And Blind Pilot. You guys should Glenn Pilot's amazing. They have a song in there. So yeah, I mean, music was it's really important to me in my life, so I wanted it to be in the movie. And my next movie is almost all classical music. It's like, I don't know, I just go through phases, whatever I'm listening to, I kind of put it in my music, my movies. Cool.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Hi Josh,
Hey.
my name is Joey, and I just wanted to know what was it behind your choice of juggling the roles of both being the main protagonist and the director of the show, and whether were there any unforeseen difficulties?
Yeah. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, it's not impossible. People do it, and I decided to do it. I didn't write this movie originally to direct it. I wrote it to be in it, and but my agent and my producer Jesse decided after a while that I would be the best person to direct it. It's a tricky tone, this movie, you know, like if it gets too goofy it seems wrong, or too funny, and if it gets too serious or sentimental, like it's a tone piece. So I started to think of myself as like the gatekeeper of the tone, that would be my role as the director. And of course, you know, you're doing a lot as well, like hearing the kind of rhythm of the script and where it lives, and in a weird way, I had a much harder experience with it the second time because I'm in about 90% of the next movie and I was in about 60% of this, so I had a bunch of days behind the camera, which I really loved, which I don't know why then I wrote myself this enormous part in my second movie, but I'm trying, my next movie I'm really going to try not to be in it. But you know, it's something, I find like I really love being on the television show, but it doesn't, it's not going to exercise all your muscles. Like I describe it to people, like you go to a gym every day and you're only allowed to work out your one arm. So that arm is like really developed and the rest of you is not really getting worked out. So this was just like a full body workout, you know. And I don't know, I tend to do better with a little bit more on my plate. Like if I'm too overwhelmed, like I kind of rise to meet that, where, you know. But panic is a good motivator, I found.
Okay, I think we've got someone in the middle. Okay, I'll run to you. Okay, wait. Oh, there you go. You first.
Hi Josh, welcome to Singapore again. I'm David. I noticed that you have a little reference to Woody Allen in the film, father and daughter thing. Yes, but are you a fan of his films? And if so, which is your favorite Woody Allen film? Oh, New York, no, maybe not.
Yeah, no, I am a great Woody Allen fan. I thought that reference, you know, she kind of they've come back from seeing a Woody Allen film, and New Yorkers are strange about Woody Allen films. Like even in that era where no one really liked his movies, it was kind of like your cultural duty to keep going and seeing his movies. So I feel like they were coming back and being like, "Oh, I want to like this guy's movies." And I actually had cut that line, and then I went and saw that movie, that one that with Larry David that he did that I really didn't enjoy, if we can be totally honest. So I kind of put that line back in. But I'm stuck. I'm definitely a Woody Allen fan. I mean, I clearly love his movies and have learned a lot from his movies, but I like to think of that line more as like the student kind of winking at the master. Like it's not, I don't mean it to be rude or anything, although some people have taken it to be rude, like how dare you, who do you think you are? But I just kind of thought, I don't know, what are my favorite films? There's this one called Annie Hall that's really good. Have you guys heard of that one? And Manhattan and Hannah and Her Sisters. I really like Deconstructing Harry, which is like a totally dark piece of his. Yeah. I mean, some of the early comedies are great, and I liked Midnight in Paris. I think what I most admire about him is that he makes a movie a year. Like, it's really astonishing what he does. Once you realize what goes into writing, directing, you know, often starring in, it's a little, like, weird that he's able to do that. Yeah. And, I mean, that's what she says. Like, maybe he should make one every 2 years. But, yeah, well, no, that's what she says. But, I mean, I kind of thought that's something Mary Catherine would say. That's not necessarily, I mean, it is, obviously, I wrote it, but it felt like something appropriate to the character. So, I don't know, I'm just trying to weasel my way out of owning that. But, okay, any other, what do we got? Yeah?
Hi. My name is Shipei. I really enjoyed the movie.
Thanks.
So I was wondering, right, like, what do you? I mean, do you see yourself becoming more of a writer, director, or an actor for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think so.
All three.
I feel like I always have this internal like weird, silly war going on in my head. Like, I have to decide. I have to decide what I am now, and I don't know. Like, I still really like acting, and that's the reason I started writing anyway, so I could keep acting and write roles for myself that I wasn't getting offered. You know. But I really enjoy directing. I love writing, and I still really like acting. I think there's something about my particular DNA that I really I like having a say in all of it. I like standing over the whole thing and having the whole picture in my head. And as an actor, I guess it's the difference between playing the violin in the orchestra and being the conductor. And I'm finding that I really like being the conductor, as well as every once in a while stepping in and playing a little violin and then stepping out. But I'm really excited by acting. I mean, by Freudian slip. I'm really excited by the idea of directing movies and the landscape of it. It just feels kind of endless, and you're never done. I mean, I don't know. I just watched. Speaking of nothing, but I just watched Dog Day Afternoon on the plane. Have you guys seen that movie? It's so good. You guys should see Dog Day Afternoon. Like, I couldn't believe how amazing it was. And I hadn't seen that movie. But, just looking at different filmmakers and what their different styles are and kind of developing a style of my own and figuring it. It's all really exciting to me right now. So if gun to my head, although that would be a weird situation if someone put a gun to my head and make me decide. But I feel like directing movies feels like, I want to keep doing it. And if you told me you could either do that or keep acting, I don't know. Now I'm having this internal argument in my own head in front of you guys, which is like, you don't need to hear this. Sorry. I like directing movies, if that's what you're asking.
Or you could just keep doing it that way. Yeah. Alright, we've got one in the middle. We're actually running out of time, so I foresee some hands going to pop up soon. But let's go.
This is Nana. I had a quick question. I thought that whole conversation between, which you kind of just touched upon, between Annie and the taxi guy about the title of the movie, which is Happythankyoumoreplease. I was just wondering whether that was actually a conversation, or you got inspired from it, or was it something you made up? Like, a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. I was just trying to put that sound pass. It's like that sound with jet lag. It's like really intense. I had heard that. A friend of mine in LA had heard some guy talking about that concept of that gratitude isn't enough. You can actually. It's this really interesting, slightly metaphysical idea that the universe is listening to you, that it's hearing you, and that if something great is happening, you can say, yeah, I'll take more of that. Like, we'll order more of that, universe. You hear me? And so I found gratitude to be this really powerful force, and I think like we're all, or a lot of us are trapped in this paradigm of we're a little restless and dissatisfied with what we have because everything culturally is trying to show us what we don't have, and if we only had this, like if you only had this car, or this dress, or this girlfriend, or this job or award, you'd be happier. And I found that getting all those things, like your ego gets tripped by it, and you're like, oh, I think I'm happier, until you wake up the next day and you're not. So I just found like gratitude itself is. I read somewhere that someone said the only worthwhile prayer is a prayer of thanks. So it was just a concept that I was dealing with a lot in my life around the time I was writing the movie. I didn't know the movie was going to be about gratitude when I started writing it. It was just something that occurred to me. I had this scene between these two people, and sometimes when you're writing, you just start listening to the characters start talking to you, and she just started saying this stuff, and then it became this weird, ungainly title for the movie, which I didn't think would actually be the title of the movie, but people really liked it when I slapped it on the first draft of the script, so it just stayed. But that's where that came from.
Okay, we really don't have much time, so no more hands. Sorry, I already have my list. We'll start with you right over there.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
My name is Holly. I'm a big fan. I just wanted to know when you had the inspiration to write this movie.
It was my first year of doing How I Met Your Mother. And, I wrote a screenplay before. I wrote like a screenplay and a half before. The other one I kind of threw out. And I just started to feel, again, like I was contributing to this great thing, but I've always loved writing, and I always thought that writing would be in my future. And I found my days are better and happier and more peaceful when I get some writing done. And sometimes that's how I feel like, oh, it's definitely part of my structure is to be a writer. And when I don't write, I get a little restless, or when I'm not doing something creative. So, yeah, I mean, I just started writing it, and I just had like these, I call them like tentpole ideas. I had this idea of guy late for a meeting, gets stuck with a kid he meets, or who gets left on the subway. I wanted to base a character on my friend Rachel, and I wanted a character in the movie to end up singing a song, like end the movie singing a song. And that's all I had. So I had a beginning, I had an end, and I had an idea for one or two characters. And then I had started taking notes on this other couple that was having this extended argument between New York about the merits of New York and Los Angeles. And then kind of like a chef, I was like, oh, maybe I could take a little of that and put that in here. And then I spun it all together. And, it was interesting trying to figure out the structure, the kind of, and a lot of it was found in editing, because the first cut of this movie was like 2 hours and 25 minutes. And now it's like 1 hour 40. So a lot was cut. A lot was shot and edited, but then eventually cut. Editing is really fascinating because it's also, you're rewriting the movie. It's like a whole nother draft of the movie. But I was just trying to find a way to tell these stories like a mosaic, kind of, like expressionistically, and have it all kind of cohere thematically and come back and feel like a satisfying whole. So that's what I was doing. I never know what I'm writing when I start writing, really. I just start writing. And then it reveals itself to me. It's a big leap of faith, because you don't know if you have anything. But I kind of will go out. I'll be writing something, and then I'll go out and I'll live my life, and something will happen.